Signature TV. News in your pocket.
Well, many thanks for still staying with us. We're still going to still keep you informed like we earlier promised. And guess what? We have a very interesting topic and a guest to do justice to that topic. We're talking crossing borders, the journey of Nigerian film producers in reaching global audiences. We have a film producer, she's also an executive producer and a consultant and mentor. Oge Obasi is on Zoom to talk to us about this very interesting subject matter. Good morning, Oge. Can you hear us clearly?
Good morning. Yes, I can.
How are you this morning?
I'm fine, thank you. And you?
All right, Oge. We introduced you as a film producer, an executive producer too. What's the difference between a film producer and an executive producer?
An executive producer basically brings resources to the project. It could be financial and otherwise. Resources that help make the project come to life. A producer is more hands-on from development of the project, creatively to the production of the project, post-production, and all of that to getting what eventually becomes the finished film or project.
All right, Oge, what are some of the works that you have done, and how have you found the job challenging, exciting? Just a few of some of them, because I have one that is really making waves. But before we get to that, tell us your journey as a producer. How exciting or challenging has it been so far?
Well, I think for me, the excitement is after the work is done and I see the impact it has. But from day one, it's full of challenges because I set out to make local films that will transcend the African audience, just the same way that we have also always consumed films from other parts of the world. I wanted to make films that would be able to go into the homes of people across the world from other cultures, races, and all of that. So it was very difficult and it's been challenging because even getting the resources to make those films are very difficult because typically Nollywood is what most people know. And so if you're coming with something that they feel is not mainstream Nollywood, then they are scared to be a part of this. And I'm talking investors and support and all those kind of things that you necessarily need to make a film. So from day one, it's a struggle because you find you have to inform and educate along the way, and there's a lot of disbelief. People don't think that a film can come out of Nigeria that would stand side by side, international films and films out of Hollywood, and that level of both artistry and production value. So it just feels like half the time you're trying to just teach people that it's possible, and it's really difficult going that part, but it's been fulfilling as well because it's been fulfilling because I've been able to say this is possible, and I've been able to say now you see it has happened. It's actually possible that we have talent out of Nigeria that can stand toe to toe with films from all over the world if we just give the right resources and the right people.
All right. What actually took you behind the camera? Were you once an actor? Because it seems as though it's the recent trend. Most veteran actors end up becoming producers, going behind the camera. What was the story for you? Were you once an actor and then you migrated to becoming a producer? Is that the trend? Must you be an actor before you become a producer, or you can just go ahead to become a producer? So for you, what was the journey like?
I've never been an actor. I have no intention of being an actor. For me, I love stories. I love storytelling, and it's a huge responsibility. I mean, it's just like being like a teacher. It's one job, but you impact so many lives. If you keep showing up for the job, then you long term you're impacting the lives of future scientists, doctors, engineers, and the rest of it. So that's what producing is. Not really a glamorous job. Um, and it's very stressful, extremely stressful. I've never been in front of the camera. I started basically as a production assistant and then worked my way up into producing. So I was on ground, for quite a while before I got into producing. And no, you don't have to be an actor before you become a producer. I think people really need to understand why they do what they do before they do what they do. I think a lot of people go into producing from acting because they want to create jobs for themselves and create opportunities for themselves within projects instead of waiting to be casted or waiting for that call. So I think that's, and then a lot of people are going into YouTube these days as well. So I think that business structure also for them is an opportunity to build followership, more fame, as well as make the movies that they put on YouTube. But personally, I have no intentions of becoming an actor.
All right, you have very like a big portfolio of films to your credit, one of which is Mami Water, a very successful film out there. Can you tell us what went into the creative process, from ideation to execution? Tell us about Mami Water and, what went into the creation of that film and, of course, towards its eventual success in the box office, if I'm allowed to use that word.
Um, from creation, I mean, the first time my partner shared the idea with me because he is the writer director. I mean, I knew it was a hit. It was a no-brainer. But like I said, we also set out to make a film that transcends our local audience and then the audience of Africa. So it was very important to know what story we're telling exactly and what representation we were setting out to make. And it was again very difficult to get people on board. I mean, excluding actors, actors are always very happy to experiment and do new stuff, but it was really difficult getting financial collaboration and all of that. And so it took us quite a long time to make the film. From ideation to premiere, it took like a 7-year period. Within that period, we had sought to find collaboration within Nigeria, which we didn't. But about 4 years into it or so, we had our first green light as far as validation is concerned, which we got at Waga Film Lab in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso. We submitted the project for the film lab and we got selected. So that took us to Waga, where the reaction to the project was very different from the reaction to the project in Nigeria. Because in Nigeria, you have a lot of, what? God forbid, Mami Water for what now? And are you a Christian? Why are you making this kind of film? And people just fail to see it from a cultural perspective because really, Mami Water is a cultural thing for West Africa. There is no part of West Africa you go to and mention Mami Water is a new thing to them. So for us, the idea behind the story was for the setting was if the West African civilization had not been disrupted by colonization and all of that, what would a typical West African village look like? So that was the basis for the look of the film. And so we set out to make a timeless piece, a piece you cannot place in any era. It's not today, it's not yesterday, but it can be today, can be yesterday, can be the future. Um, we said even down to things like clothes we made for ourselves, food we made for ourselves, and stuff like that. And so that was the community we built within the story. But in Nigeria, it seemed like nobody was interested in hearing about things like that, and it was all about the religious aspect of things. But in Burkina Faso, they were very excited about it. They were very welcoming. They were very happy, encouraged us and said, you know what, these stories need to be told, and we're happy that your generation is telling it. And then from WAGA, we won prizes that took us around Europe for a year. Me, for production workshops, as producers workshops, and for my partner, writing workshops. So for the year after we got into WAGA, we're basically traveling and discovering new markets and all of that. And then we were in South Africa for Durban Film Mart. So it was a whole lot of experience, opened opportunities and doors by this project that at home was a no-go area. And so from there, basically, we got support. COVID came, but we decided to go ahead, just stick your head in. And that's one of the crazy jobs of a producer, because you really have to be able to pull everyone together. We didn't have the resource at that point because COVID basically changed the momentum of everything. But I felt like this film had to be made and had to be made. It wasn't like something you could wait for, because timing is everything in life. And so made the decision to go ahead. And at that point, travel was difficult because we had planned to shoot in Gambia. It had become so expensive, ridiculously expensive. And also, we went to Benin Republic and we shot the film there. And afterwards, we won a couple of grants for post-production, one from Saudi and the other from Switzerland. And so that's how the project was eventually made, and we had our world premiere at Sundance Film Festival, where we also won an award for cinematography. And from there, it's been, film has been traveling from country to country, festivals, exhibitions, distribution, and even this year is going to show in cinemas in Japan. So back home, it was very messy, the distribution. I guess because of the same problem we've always faced, but outside it's been really celebrated, it's been appreciated, and it's been in conversations, and it's just everything we set out to achieve and more.
Okay, it's safe to say congratulations to you on the success of Mami Water, and it's also safe to say that your film has appealed to even the global audience. And now, as a producer and given your experience, how would you know a script that will blow, a script that will be successful for global audience and even our local audience? How do you know that script? This is the script.
Okay, so funny enough, I have a virtual class on that on the 16th of May to discuss, selecting your project and positioning it for the global audience. So usually I say to filmmakers that you have to decide if you're making the film for the local distribution or the international one, because it's not just about the audience. I personally feel like the Nigerian audience is very diverse. We don't just have one taste, because still the same Nigerian audience that consume K-pop, they consume Hollywood, all kinds of stuff. So I feel like the Nigerian audience is very vast. But unfortunately, the distribution we have in Nigeria seems to be very risk adverse. I don't know whether to say they are not sure what to do with certain kinds of films in terms of positioning and marketing, or they just don't want to go through the inconvenience of figuring it out. So there's only a certain kind of films that are usually easily allowed into the system, and so that's where you have to cast a certain kind of people, and then they are looking for people with Instagram following, high numbers, so they cast them even when they are not actors. Things like this that affect the industry, on a subliminal level. So I always say to them, are you going to the local distributors or the international ones? Because the things that you would think about, consider for the local is different from the international. For the international, it's more about the craft of filmmaking and storytelling. And before we start going into production value, for the local one, it's about the actors and whatever gimmicks you put into marketing, and very much less about the craft and the storytelling. So you can't eat your cake and have it. For now, hopefully in the future there will be some sort of merge where both kinds of films can exist. But for now, it's not working. The films that succeed internationally struggle locally, including My Water. It was very difficult. Again, not because of the audience, but the distribution was a mess. So, what do you look for? I mean, there's always a space for experience. It's not something you just snap fingers and do, but essentially you need a very strong story. It doesn't matter there's no story that is brand new, so to speak. But even if you're taking a story that is already existing, then make it your own. I think it's very important for us to respect the craft of script writing and directing and editing, which currently I don't feel like we give much attention to. For the scripts, from the scripts and ideation stage, it's where you say, this story, from a storytelling perspective, this emotion, this element is what I want to talk about. From the directing perspective, we now have, how does it translate to screen? How does it translate visually? How do we create the mood and emotion and carry it along and achieve what we set out to do? The artistry is there. So these days, we're always focusing on directors who know how to use gadgets, directors who know how to operate the camera. But directors are not required to know how to operate the camera. The director is supposed to be an artist. So it's that artistry that I feel like we've neglected so much. It's telling, because right now it looks like no matter how much money we throw into films, people are still like, no, it's not looking great. So it's almost like the money is not making a difference. But I believe it's the artistry that has not really been invested and built on, and maybe even respected. And that goes the same for script writing. Script writers complain about not being given time to work, not given time to develop, and eventually writing and whatever they put in there is maybe messed with during shoots. It's like the director doesn't know why you did this, and so they're just like, this is not important, and then they get rid of it, which at the end of the day reflects on the overall film. And so for editing at the end of the day, you've shot what you can shoot. Sometimes you don't finish shoots for whatever reasons. Maybe you ran out of resources, maybe you lost some footage, anything can happen. But what you do have, your editor has to be able to sit with the director and say, okay, so we are crafting a story out of this. So again, at the end of it, storytelling, the art of storytelling is an art form, is what is very important, I believe, very, very important. So it's not just about seeing a script and saying this works. It might not even be a script. It can be a concept, can be a story. You don't even need to see a script. A story, it's interesting. Okay, so now what do we do with it? From that point moving forward of what do we do with it is what makes all the difference to the end product that you end up with, the film you end up with, at the end of the day. You have to be able to ask why why this story? What's important about this story? How am I going to tell the story? And who are the people that are going to make the story come to life? So that's my thinking and approach to it.
It seems as though, well, I'm speculating here, but it does seem as if people would prefer actors to producers. It's as though producers do not get their flowers or their accolades as they should, as compared to actors. I mean, locally. Is that a different story, across the borders? Is it different? Do producers get their accolades, abroad much more than they do down here? What's the experience for you?
Well, producers do get their credits, flowers and actors. It's not even the same at all. In Nigeria, it feels like you need to be famous, recognizable, to get that. But abroad, your project speaks for you. So it's more about the project. Then you say, oh, this is the producer of Me Water. And they're like, wow, I watched it in Berlin and it was so awesome and all of that. They might not see me and recognize me on the street, and that's okay, or on social media, and that's fine. But they recognize the work, and so when you're even in conversation for anything, because of your work, that's what gets you into the room, and that's what gives you the respect and you deserve and everything like that. But like in Nigeria, it's not really about that. For example, no one has come forward to say, oh, so you made a film that went to Sundance. Sundance is a big deal, in the film industry worldwide. And then you made a film, and I know you did not have like the most glorious of resources, but out of that, you made something happen from beginning to the end, and it went to premiere in Sundance, which was the first for a Nigerian, from a local producer in Nigeria. No one has approached to say, okay, so I have this, what can we do with it? There's been no attempt at collaboration, whereas outside is different. When you do stuff like that, then you become the go-to person, like, okay, I have an African story, and I'm thinking of filming in Africa, and what do you think? Would you be able to consult for us? Would you be able to come on as a producer? Would you be able, those conversations are hard, but locally, no, I'm not famous. I'm not famous, so maybe that's the problem. But really, I think the kind of work that goes to producing does not even give you room to pursue that side of things, because there's so much mental work that goes into it. In fact, if anything, you're looking for time to be by yourself and be on your own. You're not looking for time, extra body and activities, to do. It's very different, I promise you, because they really value the craft and the work that goes into it, and then the success of the film is just icing on the cake.
Talk about streaming platforms. Platform in point is Netflix. How has Netflix actually impacted on your career as a producer, both here in Nigeria and outside of Nigeria? Has it helped in any way?
Personally, no. For me, no, because I mean, Mami Wata had all the success he had. Safe to say, it's, as far as the international space is concerned, in recent years, most successful Nigerian film out there, and they refused to put the film on their platform. Nigeria, Mami Wata also represented Nigeria for the 2024, Oscar submission. And again, it's not on their platform. I mean, for me, I think it's very disrespectful to the industry as a whole, because eventually they complained that the films are not transcending local audience, and so they decided to geo-block films for Africa. So Nigerian films can only be seen in Africa, that kind of argument. But then you have a film, same out of Nigeria, that has gone to, the spaces in your country, in the Netflix world, the high ranking, the Sundance and all those type of places. It was even nominated for NAACP and such awards. That's as high as it gets. But you don't put the film on your platform. So I feel like it's a disservice to the industry. You should be able to show that Nollywood exists and other films out of Nigeria exist, and these talents exist in Nigeria. You don't need to go looking for a Nigeria in another country to achieve a certain level of maybe artistry or professionalism and all of that. So how do you take our success and then not want to put it on your platform? But sometimes I feel like some of the projects they select, like you guys want us looking bad, because I don't understand. There are better films than this. Why do you go for this type of films? So personally, I don't think Netflix. I think they did good for a very little window, but the harm for me is more than the good, because we still keep having to explain that Nigerians can do better films, and it was an opportunity. It didn't hit the mark.
All right, okay, Obasi, thank you so much for your time and congratulations on the success of your film, Mami Water. More wins, my dear.
Thank you.
All right, New Day continues right after this break. Stay with us.